Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to Immigration and Jobs Talk Show, where we dive deep into the world of visas and immigration. I'm your host, Rajni Bharara, and today's episode is again a special one because after the engaging response from received from our first two episodes on B1 and B2 visas, we decided to bring you an Ask Me Anything session. In today's AMA session, we are focusing on one of the most sought after visas for travel to the United States. Yes, the B1 and B2 visa. And who better to guide us through the intricacies of the B1 and B2 visa than our esteemed guest, Yvette Bansal, a former US Visa Consular Officer. So, guys, please join me in welcoming our esteemed guest, Yvette Bansal, everyone. Hi, Yvette. It's again an honor
Hey,
having you with us today. Thank you for gracing our platform.
thanks for having me.
All right. So, Yvette, before we take up the questions and before we ask you the question, I would like to read out the important disclaimer here. So, guys, by watching our videos, you agree and understand that the information provided by our experts and attorneys, including comments and replies from users, is not legal advice. Use of information is at your own risk. All right. So now, Yvette, before we jump into the questions from our audiences, because it's an AMA session, so let's take a
Mhm.
moment to appreciate the importance of B1 and B2 visa and the impact it has on travelers worldwide, right? What do you have to say?
There's just no other visa that you can get in order to freely travel to the United States as a tourist or to attend a conference or a meeting. So I get that question, is there any other visa for me? No, the B1, B2 visa for tourism and those conferences is the key to coming to the United States for a short period of time and leaving. So it is an important visa.
Of course, it is. And also, there must be people who just joined us or who must be joining us in this episode who must have not followed our first and second episode. So, for those ones, what do you have to say? I mean, if you can please explain them what B1 and B2 visa is. Let's start from the simple explanation.
Right. A B1 and B2 visa is a tourism visa and a visa that allows you to do some non-work related activities that like conferences and training. So it's not productive work, but you can attend a conference and you can attend training on a B1 visa and you can go for some medical treatment on a B1 B2 visa, although that's not very common, and tourism on a B1 B2 visa. And a lot of people think I'm just going to get a B1 or I'm just going to get a B2, but they are given together. So when you get your visa foil, it'll generally say B1 B2, which allows you to do all of the aforementioned activities, whether it's tourism or to attend a training or conference, or some minor medical treatment can also be done. It's really limited in what you can do on a B1 B2 visa.
And how much in what time span do you generally get after you apply? So, what's the time span that you have to wait for to actually get the visa?
So it depends on the country. In India, it's fairly quick. After you get your B1, B2 approved, within 3 to 5 business days, you'll get that visa in your hand. Things move really quickly, quite efficiently. But I have some clients from the Middle East that text message me after 2 weeks saying my visa was approved, but I still haven't gotten my passport back. So in some countries, it moves a little slower. So that is the general time frame, anytime between 3 days and a couple weeks, depending on where your visa was approved.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much for answering the questions, Yvette. And everyone, I would like to tell you that please note that this session is being streamed live on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and also on Udeti Visa on YouTube. So, and our handle is Immigration Talk Show. So you don't forget to subscribe to both of us. And if you have any questions from to Yvette, then wherever you are watching it from, please comment with your questions. We'll be glad to answer them. And all right, so I already see a lot of questions here. Some have come from Udeti Visa, and some have been from Immigration Talk Show. So let's first take Zahir's question. So Zahir wants to know that what should I do if my B1 B2 visa application is denied?
So a denial isn't great news. I'm sorry you had to experience that denial. It happens. The visa process is very quick, and visa officers sometimes adjudicate as many as 120 applicants within 3 hours. I used to have to hit 120 applicants before noon, so I had to be very quick. So it really may not be reflective of whether or not you're actually qualified for a visa, unfortunately. It could just be that you did not do as well on the interview. So if your application is denied, try to see and assess why that application was denied, kind of go over the interview in your head, and then maybe use some of the tips that I'm going to give you here today, making sure that your itinerary is clear if you're going to the US for tourism, that it's a realistic itinerary, that
Mhm.
it's a reason for travel that makes sense to the consular officer. So, a story I will tell is that I had a lot of applicants in Delhi tell me that they were going to the US on a B1, B2 visa for housewarming parties. These were their housewarming parties, but they were related to religious things that you would do when you purchase a home.
Right.
So,
Mhm.
in the Hindu religion, there's a lot of different types of religious things you do to welcome a new home. And
Yeah.
as a new fresh consular officer, you're not necessarily going to understand the need for somebody who's maybe making 8 lakhs or 10 lakhs a year to travel all the way to the US for a housewarming party, or
Mhm.
some some activities with a newborn baby. That's so you have to kind of think a little bit on the lines of the consular officer.
Mhm.
So you may want to keep in mind that certain cultural things may not make as much sense. So if that's your true reason for travel, maybe also talking about other tourism activities, or maybe talk about more about finances, or explain to the consular officer why you're willing to spend so much on this particular trip. So so I've covered a lot, but making sure that your purpose of travel is understood by the consular officer, that you're
Mhm.
explaining the finance as well, and that you have a
Mhm.
pretty solid itinerary. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. So Zahir, your question has been answered in detail. So, but thank you so much for posting the question. I hope you have got the answer. But sometimes what happens, Yvette, is after a
Yeah.
application is denied, people generally think about, now, should I apply for another visa? Right? So this is one question that mostly comes in people's mind. So let's suppose, I think maybe what Zahir wanted here to know is, if his B1 B2 visa is denied or have gotten rejected, so is there any other visa that he can apply for? Maybe, I mean, I'm just um anticipating, maybe this is what he wanted to know. What do you
Right,
have
and
to say?
that's what we talked about earlier, is that there's no alternative for
Uh-huh.
tourism for a B1, B2 visa, and a lot of people have that question. So, if you want to go for tourism, you're very limited on the type of visa. There is no other visa. I mean,
Okay.
J visas for exchange students,
Mm-hmm.
F visas are for students. So, depending on your H1Bs are obviously very difficult to get. Then you have your employment based categories.
Right.
So what options do you really have? It really depends on your profile and if you're willing to go to the United States for a completely different reason. With that being said, I do visa interview preparation in my company Udeti for this reason. Especially if you've had a prior denial, you may need help presenting your best self to the consular officer the next time around,
Uh-huh.
because you kind of are in a critical position where you really have to ace that next round with the consular officer. Otherwise, then you have two refusals on your profile, and that's even harder to overcome. So,
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for also, clarifying my doubt. And now let's quickly take next question. Next we have is from Arya Chopra. And Arya wants to know, she has posted this on YouTube on Immigration and Jobs Talk Show. And she wants to know, have you turned over previous refusal when the refusal is like three times? She has multiple questions. So first is the, let's take one by one. So have you turn over previous refusal when the refusal is like three times?
sure, it can happen. It can happen when there's a long time between refusals. It can happen where additional information is presented and you clear up my doubts from the previous refusals, or different circumstances are
Mhm.
in your profile. So it does happen. It's difficult and it really depends case by case. Yeah.
Okay. And the second question that he's asking is, do you um do visa officer know my travel history within the US?
They
Do
have
they know if
access
I
to
have SSN, and is 30 minutes session enough for mock interview? Okay, I've taken all these three in one go, but
um So, yes, they have access to your travel history. Consular officers have access to weird facts that you may or may not know of, but they also have things like very obvious things like travel history to the United States. They definitely have access to and can check. Do they know if you have an SS number? They could possibly know if you have an SS number. And is 30-minute session enough for a mock interview? For a straightforward case, it can be. If you have some questions, it can be. For something that's a little bit more complicated, I definitely suggest a longer mock session, but it's up to
Mhm.
what you are able to do too.
Okay, all right. So also, thank you so much, Arya, for posting your question and for asking your question. I hope you have got the answer. And to the lovely audiences who's watching us right now, if you are watching the video after this live session has ended, you can continue to post your questions. My team will be there to help you with an answer. All right. So now let's take next question, which has been posted on. So how do we? I mean, because I said it UDETI visa, and
Hmm.
is it UDETI or and I heard something else from you. So how do you actually pronounce it?
Udeti.
UDETI. Okay, I'm really
Yeah.
sorry about that. UDETI
No.
visa.
Yeah. It's Sanskrit for rise up and overcome. So that's what it means. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Now we know the meaning also. Okay, so also everyone, if you want to directly connect with Yvette, so you can give her a call at +1 630 303 6165, and her email is yb@udetivisa.com, YB as in yellow, B as in blue, and her website is udetivisa.com. And now let's quickly take up Hanafi's question, and Hanafi has posted this on Udeti Visa, and she wants to know, Yvette, I have been to US for J1 visa, but stay there for only 3 weeks and not completed my J1 internship because of my grandma passing away. Now 4 years have passed. I want to go to US for tourism. Do we have a second part to it? Okay, I don't think the question is already okay. Only this much has been. So, Hanafi, if you can please post your complete question, because I'm trying to read it here on the chat also, but I can't find the complete question. Only this much has been posted. Maybe if she wants to know, I want to go to US for tourism now, what should I do? Maybe.
Yeah, or if it's going to impact her that she only stayed for 3 weeks. It really
Yeah.
depends. If
Mhm,
on the one hand, it's great that you went to the United States on a F1 visa, did not misuse the F1 visa, and then went back. But at the same time, the consular officer will still be assessing you for ties, and that's what the consular officer is doing when you go for a B1 B2 visa for tourism. They're trying to see, is this person established in the home in their home country? What kind of educational background do they have? Work? Those are all things that the consular officer uses to assess ties. So it's going to be a positive point that you use that J1. However, you're still going to be assessed as an individual traveling to the US on tourism in your current state and in your current situation.
okay, all right. Okay, Hanafi, I hope you have got the answer for your question. And also, Hanafi, you can tell us where have you posted this question from, as in the place that you're living in, the location, so that, we can also have this engagement with you. We can interact with you. So you can tell us where are you watching this live session from. And yes, and thank you for posting your question. Now let's quickly move to Jonathan's question. Jonathan wants to know, when visa officer denied a visa, when they write a note, what they usually write? Do most of them add caveat in their refusal note, or if they think that applicant may qualified in the future?
So these are case notes. Consular officer case notes, they vary. They vary by year, they vary by consulate, they vary by
Mhm.
embassy. This is kind of a long answer for you, but I'll give it to you because it's kind of an interesting topic.
Yeah, please.
So maybe 10 years ago, it was acceptable for a consular officer to write, does not present well. That's
Mm-hmm.
it, period. Or finances, period. And that's the
Mm-hmm.
only thing that'll be in a case note. That's a little ludicrous because it doesn't help the next consular officer. Now, over time, it seems that process has become a little bit stricter, so that consular officers have to write a little bit more details. They have to connect it with 9FAM, which is the law and policy that drives visa adjudication, hopefully tying it back to some of the policy and what they believe that applicant is lacking. But with 120 adjudications in the morning, you're going to write fast notes and they may not be that detailed. So where so it also depends on the post. In some places your manager will want to you to write very clear, thorough notes. In other places, your manager might want you to go as fast as possible and get as many applicants done. So, in these two cases, what the officer is writing about an applicant is going to vary wildly.
Mm-hmm.
They could say that there is potential for them to say could be good applicant in the future. That's an interesting thing to ask because that is something that consular officers with a little bit of a guilty conscience might put,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense. I can't
Mm-hmm.
deny this person right now. I have some doubts about their ties, but they seem cool. They seem like they would be good in the future. That is definitely possibly a case note. Is it common? No. Does it happen? Yeah, maybe it happens like once a day.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, John, for asking your question. I hope you have got the answer for it. And for the ones who don't know what how it means, I would like to tell you that it means a warning or caution, a legal notice to a court or public officer to us. Am I correct, Yvette?
It's just a like an added like a side note. I would do a caveat like, "Hey, side note," or by the way. Like I would just say that's how I associate
Oh,
the word
okay.
the
Yeah,
caveat. Yeah.
I think okay, all right. Thank you so much for telling the meaning to, because there must be people who also don't know what exactly
Right.
the word means. So I think we have one more question from Jonathan, and Jonathan wants to know that how was your experience as a visa officer? Are you, and this has been posted on your channel, are
Mhm, mhm.
you leaning toward more approvals or refusals? Are you more considerate knowing that you are immigrants as well? Plus, do you get influenced by previous refusal note?
It's a very loaded question. I would say being a consular officer was really hard on me, which is probably why I didn't do it anymore because
Mm-hmm.
refusing that many people a day was very difficult for me. Other consular officer didn't seem to get as affected, but it was really hard for me to refuse applicants, especially applicants that I thought had a lot of heart but did not meet the parameters of the law. So, do I lean more? Did I lean more towards approval? I think that I did. I feel like if the person has met the bare minimum of the law that I was working under, and they showed me that they have enough ties,
Uh-huh.
and they were communicating with me truthfully, that I would approve their visa to the best of my ability. Um, and being influenced by previous refusals, we always take what our colleagues say seriously. So every consular officer does take those prior refusals into consideration. However, if the prior refusal is 3 words, did not show a lot of depth,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm not going to take it as seriously as a refusal that is soft or hard. Like so if it's a soft refusal or a hard refusal, I'm going to take those things more seriously. But I always try to see that applicant with fresh eyes and listen to the best of my ability, given the circumstances with how many applicants we had to see. So that was my experience. Thank you for asking.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, John. And I hope now you have learned more about Yvette. And thank you for asking your question. And Yvette, but whenever you used to refuse someone's application, so I mean, that person must surely be feeling sad and disappointed. But then, how you used to deal with, you know, uh, uh, refusing to that person?
Yeah, so I have actually a little story, and then
Please go ahead.
I'll
Yeah,
answer
yeah.
your
Please go ahead.
question. So to answer your question, I just gave them the 214B letter. I'm sorry, at this time I'm not able to approve your visa. This letter explains why. Okay, that letter does not explain why because it was a very generic 214B letter that everybody got. But we do not have time at the window to go back and forth with applicants. Like that's
Mhm.
never going to be a situation where you can do that, nor do you want to. So that was a way for me to be like, I'm going to give my applicant something. Unfortunately, this is all I could do, and that's it. Um, the story I'm going to tell you relates to Jonathan's question. When I was training to be a consular officer, we don't really get a lot of training on the line, but maybe a week we shadow and then we get a chance to interview people. I had a young girl from like a rural area in India who did not have strong finances at
Mhm.
all, but I believed her intent to be a student.
Mhm.
Um, and I approved it. And I because I was very new, I had my manager reviewing my cases at the time, which if you're a seasoned officer, you don't get that much oversight. But because I was very new, and she pulled
Mhm.
me aside, she's like, "This is not an approvable case."
Okay.
There's a difference between weak finances and just really no finances at all. And so this young woman did not have any finances at all. Like she just simply did not meet the bar for being able to be on her F1 visa and sustain herself financially in any way. Probably came from a family that couldn't even qualify for a loan. I'm not really sure the exact details, but I remember clearly that like she had a lot of heart and I believed in her. And I looked at my manager, I'm like, she's gonna make it. My manager's like, no, like
Okay.
the finances are not there. And I'm like, okay. And so even after I approved the visa, I had to pull that application, and she ended up getting her passport back with 214B in it, unfortunately. But my manager was right. That applicant was simply not qualified for a visa.
Mhm.
And it it helped me kind of frame the way I adjudicate. It's like there is this part of your reason for travel, and then there's a qualification bar that you have to meet. So that's just the story from the line for you. But thank you.
Okay, so it must have been really hard for you, right?
It was, yeah.
Yeah. When like we say, we can't bring emotions to profession. Well, I mean, it's hard, but like we say, we can't and we should not. So you did the right thing, Yvette.
Yeah.
And yeah. So now let's quickly move to our next question. Shahrukh has posted this question on YouTube. Shahrukh wants to know, can I use a B1, B2 visa to attend a job interview in the US? What do you have to say?
Technically you can go on a B1 B2 to attend a job interview in the United States. Um how you frame that to the consular officer could raise a wide host of questions. But is it a permissible activity? There's nothing that would not permit you from attending a job interview in the United States.
Okay, okay. So I hope you have got the answer, Shahrukh. Thank you so much for posting the question. And now let's move to next question, which has been asked by Nikita. And Nikita has posted this on Udeti Visa, and she wants to know the do I think she means to say VO as in visa officer. Do visa officer know if I previously rejected Australia visa? Do having Schengen visa means I have been vetted but never go there, a plus point. And should you having interview early 8 a.m. or late morning 11 a.m. Okay, so the grammar is a little bit off here, but I hope you understand the question.
Yes. The officer,
Okay, so
um,
I mean, I thought it must be VO as in visa officer, but if you can tell if CO also consular
CO work.
officer,
Yeah, that also
right?
works. Yeah,
Yeah.
no worries. Yeah. Um, so do they know if you've been previously rejected an Australian visa? I don't really feel comfortable actually answering that question. It's a little bit of a security link, so I'm not going to answer it. I hope you don't mind. Does
Okay.
having a Schengen visa and never going there a plus point? It may hurt you because it looks like maybe you're just collecting the visa versus you traveling, because the first question is going to be, I see you have a Schengen visa. Where have you been? And you saying that you haven't been anywhere, then it's neither here nor there. It may not hurt you, but it may not help you, and it might actually hurt you if it looks like maybe you're collecting visas in your passport, but you're not traveling, because the whole point of previous travel being a plus point for you is the fact that you're
Mhm.
demonstrating strong finances by taking those trips, not just collecting visas. And should you have an interview 8 a.m. or late morning? I don't know. It doesn't matter, because it depends on the consular officer and what mood they're in. I mean, not the mood, but it really doesn't matter. I don't think it really makes a huge difference. Hmm.
Okay, all right. So Nikita, you can tell us where are you watching us live from? As in, where do you live? Where are you currently watching this live session from? And also, you can tell us, which field do you work in? And yes, so that we can interact with you more and we can give you more answer. Um, and thank you so much, but for posting your question. And I hope you have got the answer. Now, Raja Ahmed is here, and Raja says that thanks for pulling off great events. Thank you so much, Raja, for saying that. Continue watching Immigration and Jobs Talk Show, and also Udeti Visa. And yes, we are trying to get more and more content for you. And Nikita is back again, and Nikita wants to know, do visa officer know if I previously rejected? Okay, I think this has
It's the
been
same
asked,
question,
the
yeah.
same question, right?
Hmm.
All right, so next is from Najib Khan, and Najib wants to know, have I mistakenly applied for a B1, B2 visa instead of B2 for my parents, whom I have scheduled appointments for? Do I need to redo the entire process for them?
No, 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 no. It's not a mistake. When you fill out your DS-160, it asks for a B1 or B2, but ultimately you will get a visa foil that says B1 or B2. I don't know why they have that drop down, but it must be some sort of sorting mechanism probably on the back end, but it's not really a mistake to apply for a B1, B2 visa instead of a B2, because you're going to
Mhm,
get both.
mhm.
You don't need to redo anything. You're good.
Okay, so Najib, I hope you're happy by the answer because you don't need to do anything. And yes, and now Raja is back again. After praising us, he's back again with his question. So, what Raja is saying is, in your recent session regarding B1, I asked for clarifying my reason. That is to meet my maternal grandmother and aunt. We, as a family of 5 members, attended the interview in Islamabad embassy. Okay. Do we have a second point? Yes, here. We tried our best in prep, docs, and other important stuff, but to our wonder, consular officer didn't pay even a good attention to us and denied the visa. Now, I want your kind attention and how we can overcome 214B. What do you have to say,
Sounds like
Yvette?
it just sounds like a very personal case, and if prep sessions did not work for you on your own, you may need to take it a step further and, maybe
Mhm.
hire me and we can go over your case together.
Right.
Um, if you did the best you could to prepare,
Mhm.
and you listen to, I have some B1, B2 videos on my YouTube channel that go into detail about how to demonstrate your ties, how to be very clear about your travel intent. And if you feel like you did the best you could either accept the outcome or maybe go for an additional service.
All right. Okay, so thank you so much, Yvette, for answering the question, Raja. I hope you have got the answer. And if you directly want to connect with Yvette, you can give her a call at +1 630 303 6165. You can also email her at yb@udetivisa.com, Y as in yellow, B as in blue. And her website is udetivisa.com. And now let's quickly take next question. The next question that we have is from Tamara. And Tamara wants to know, I have pending asylum application and my parents will have interview for B1, B2 visa. What should they say in the interview about me and my status? What do you have to say, Yvette?
I think that you have to be honest with the consular officer as they have resources to information that you may not think that they have. And that they may s- the officer may not ask they may not ask what your current status is. They may ask what you're doing in the United States. I'm not sure if you have work. So the questions that the consular officer asks, depending on their age, it could still potentially be an approval for them, but sorry, but you have to be honest with the consular officer. They have to answer questions as best possible. Try to establish their own personal ties, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe because they're older and if they have enough ties, it would be enough for them to get the approval. But obviously, having a daughter in the US with an asylum application is not going to look very positively at the visa window. So,
Okay. So I hope, Tamara, you have got the answer for your question. Thank you for posting it. And after Tamara, because we are getting too many questions, Yvette, and this has been posted on Udeti Visa. So now let's quickly take Sanjay's questions. What Sanjay wants to ask is, okay, this I'm not sure because the start of the question is a bit controversial. If Trump become president for the next election, will they impact B1, B2 visa? Will it make harder to get them? Because J1 visa are getting limitation issued back then when Trump is the president. What do you have to say, Yvette? Would you like to comment or let's
no, I
just
mean, I'm gonna comment. So
uh-huh.
basically, administration and policy changes sometimes work from the top down. So that means that when you have a minister consular of consular affairs, they're the head of consular affairs at an embassy, and right above them is the ambassador. The ambassador is sometimes is a political appointee, okay, by the
Mhm,
president.
mhm,
So policy comes down in a way where if you have an administration that's tight on immigration, you can have an appointee that's an ambassador that's tight on immigration. That ambassador tells the head of consular tells the managers, we're
mhm,
really tight on immigration right now. This is the law of the land. So even if policy, so it's two pronged. One, it could just be the communication you're getting from your managers or becoming stiffer, so there's less approvals that could potentially happen, or
mhm,
policies in of themselves getting tighter on immigrations, maybe limiting the J1 program or other types of program. So I would anticipate a little bit of it going south, no pun intended, if Trump gets back into office. I would be a little bit weary of what's going to happen
mhm,
and the level of immigration expansion or the positive impact on immigration that we would see maybe in a Democratic administration gets more constricted generally
mhm.
when we have a
Yeah.
Republican in office, and especially somebody who is um, you know, has the policies and mindset of Trump. So
Okay. All right. Well, it was a controversial question a little bit, but even then, you choose to comment on it. So thank you so much for that. And thank you so
sure.
much for clarifying Sanjay's question, giving an answer to Sanjay's question. So thank you so much for that, Yvette. And everyone, if you're watching this video after the live session has ended, you can continue to post your question. My team will be there to help you with an answer. So now, after Sanjay, let's take next question. The next question is from As- Ascent. I'm not sure if I'm taking the name right. Is it Asante or Ascent? Asante. Okay.
Maybe it's
Hi.
Ashanti. Oh no, maybe Ashanti. Maybe.
Asante.
Maybe I
Yeah,
missed.
it could be anything. So yeah, but let's just quickly take the question because I
Yeah.
think he eagerly, more than his name, I think he eagerly wants to know the answer for his question. So hi, I
Uh,
am okay, Asante. Yes, you are correct. He has said I'm Ashanti from Ghana, and please, my question is that if someone has been banned from UK, can he apply for a US B1 B2 visa? What do you have to say?
I don't think there's any tie between a ban from the UK and a ban from anyone can apply for a B1 B2 visa. Even if you have a ban from the US, you can apply for a B1 B2 visa. Now, getting an approval and what that looks like will depend on your profile. It may not necessarily even come up that you've been banned from the UK, depending on whether that's visible to the consular officer or not. But you can certainly apply for a B1 B2 visa.
Okay. All right. So thank you so much, Ashanti, for your question. I hope you have got the answer. Now, after Ashanti, this was posted on Udeti Visa. I would like to tell you, Yvette. And now, the next question is from Darshit. And Darshit wants to know, is it mandatory or any law or rules that you need to entry in US within 6 months after getting B1, B2 visa? I've heard after 6 months entry, immigration asks many questions or clarification. Is it true?
So so you can enter at any time after you get your visa. So like for example, like my I have in-laws and they're Indian citizens and they have their B2 visa and they got their B1 B2 visa a long time ago before they ended up visiting us just because of like COVID and other
Mm-hmm.
things. So
Right.
they were older, they got their B1 B2 visa way before they needed to
Mhm.
actually come to the United States. They didn't have any issues. So that is a common thing. However, the reason immigration might be asking them a lot of questions, asking individuals a lot of questions, is because you may say you have a certain purpose of travel. And generally, when you go for a B1, B2 interview, that purpose of travel is within the next 6 months. So if you're
Mm-hmm.
not entering within the first 6 months and you've communicated to the consular officer that this is your purpose of travel, now the CBP officer is wondering, is that really your purpose of travel? So that's where the the issue isn't aligning, and that's probably what you're referring to and what's occurring.
Okay. All right. So, Darshit, I hope you've got the answer for your question. You can tell us, where are you watching us from? And also, you can tell us which field do you work in. We would like to also interact with you more. So, you can quickly, we are going for a short break. So, you can quickly type in, the place that you're watching us live from and also about, the field that you work in. And, this AMA session is going really great, Yvette. Don't you think?
I hope I'm not like going on and on too long. I could be a lot shorter with my
You
answers,
are
but
doing amazing. You are giving such great answers, and we are absolutely loving you here. And I'm sure the audiences are also loving you. And but now it's time for a short break. So let's take a quick break. And people don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more insights into the B1 B2 visa process. Just stay tuned and keep on watching Immigration and Jobs Talk Show and also Udeti Visa.
Are you an IT consultant seeking a new opportunity? We offer job placement services for US citizens, green cards, EADs, and visa holders. We also sponsor various work visas like H1B, E3, TN, and green cards. 20 plus years of experience in the industry, exceptional employee benefits, highly rated by our employees. Global presence with 200 plus recruiters and direct clients. Connect with us. Call us on the number 732-707-9151 or mail us at rajni@higheritpeople.com or visit our website www.higheritpeople.com.
Welcome back, everyone. We are diving straight back into our AMA session on the B1B2 visa with our special guest, Yvette Bansal. We have had some fantastic questions come in from our lovely audience, so let's not waste any more time and quickly take them. So, Yvette, welcome back once again.
Thank you.
And everyone, please note that this session is being streamed live on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And the handle is Immigration Talk Show. And also, it is streamed live. It is being streamed live on Udeti Visa. So don't forget to subscribe to us. And if you have any questions to the attorney, wherever you're watching it from, if you have any questions from Yvette, actually, so wherever you're watching it from, please comment with your question. We'll be glad to answer them. And now, without any further ado, let's take Dushi's question. So, Dushi wants to know, can I correct? It has been posted on LinkedIn. And Dushi wants to know, can I correct the DS-160 form of my parents after booking an appointment? What do you have to say, Yvette?
You should be able to correct the DS-160. It varies by consulate and embassy, so go on US Travel Docs, try to retrieve the DS-160 application and see uh, the process for how to update and correct the DS-160. Updating the DS-160 won't hurt you, and the consular officer will just see the latest version of the DS-160. So plenty of people update their DS-160. So
Okay, all right. So, Dushi, well, I hope you have got the answer. Now, at Eve suggested, you can, correct your DS-160. It won't be any problem. So now let's quickly move to Sachin's question. Sachin has also posted it on LinkedIn, and Sachin wants to know during the H1B grace period, if I require additional time to wrap up affairs and continue my job search, can I apply for a B1 B2 visa for myself and my spouse? Is this process something I can manage independently? Additionally, what steps should I take? I
I
think,
would yeah, I think you
yeah,
should talk to your employer about the steps of, okay,
I
say,
think
go
there's
ahead,
there's more
Rajni.
to this question. I'm so sorry to
Okay.
interrupt you. Ed.
No, no
There's more to
worries.
this question, which has been cut off, but here it is. Additionally, what steps should I take to transition back to an H1 visa if I secure a job after the 60-day grace period? Is what he wants to know.
This is a multi-layered question, and so I would speak to your employer. I'm sure they have some resources for you and how to navigate this because it's not something I can cover in this forum, and I would not want to lead you astray. So definitely, you should be communicating with your employer and looking closely at this. I can't just like give you the step by step in order to answer this question appropriately with the time that we have.
Okay. All right. So after Sachin's question, so I think Sachin also has a follow-up question, but I think we can take the follow-up question a little bit later because I can see this one more question posted by Pratik here on Udeti Visa. And Pratik wants to know, I'm going for a short trip of 10 days to California. If I mentioned this in my B1, B2 visa interview, how many years will be the validity of the B1, B2 visa?
You should generally get a full validity 10-year visa if you're uh, applying from India, which I assume you are. So you in India, you will get a 10-year full validity visa, even if you're going for a short 10-day trip to California.
Okay, and yes, he says, I am from India. I'm planning for a short trip of 10 days to US. If I mention this in my interview, what will be the validity of the visa issued to me if approved?
Yeah, so a consular officer will not just look at your immediate plans, but they'll adjudicate for that 10-year visa. They'll adjudicate based on whether they believe you're a credible applicant and that you will not misuse the visa now or in the future. So generally speaking, you will get a full validity visa. Most people do.
Okay, all right. So, Pratik, thank you so much for posting the question. I hope you've got the answer. And keep watching, keep subscribing to Udeti Visa and also to Immigration and Jobs Talk Show. We are here to help you. And now, next question is from Sohail. And Sohail wants to know, I have pending asylum application and my parents will have interview for B1, B2. Okay, I think we already have
We
taken.
we already took this question,
Yeah.
yeah.
Next question is from Sunil, and Sunil says, I'm planning to apply for B1, B2 visa for my sister who is working professional later on if she needs to arrive in the US on any other visa type for work or study. Will there be an impact?
I'm sorry. I'm planning to apply for a B1, B2 visa for my sister who is working professional later on if she needs to arrive to the US on any other visa type or for work or study. Will there be any impact? Um,
I
you're
think,
applying for your sister. Can you clarify this question? Because
yeah, even, I was a little confused too. So, Sunil, if you can please clarify, are you applying for your sister or your sister already there in the US? Um,
right.
Yeah, so we want a little bit clarification here. So if you can please clarify your question, so that Yvette can answer it properly. So if you can please come back with your question after clarifying all these things that Yvette has mentioned. Now Pratik is back, and Pratik wants to know that if I present myself financial strong in the B1 B2 visa by mentioning about my savings and investment in Indian stock market, will I be considered as a candidate with strong ties to my home country?
I'm sorry. I think I'm like reading some of the side notes here. So if I present myself financial strong ties uh, by mentioning my savings in the Indian stock market, will I be considered as a strong candidate? So yeah, the stronger finances that you have and your ability to explain them will certainly help your ties. So you can mention, your level of savings, and you should be talking about your finances. I think a lot of applicants do not put forward a lot of their finances the way they should. Like, I know somebody who was refused who was very well off because she had a really timid personality, but I know that she was like a millionaire. But she had a really timid personality and did not present her finances in a confident way, or I think at all, to the consular
Mhm.
officer. I'm not sure if she assumed that the consular officer knew how much she makes, but the consular officer does not have your tax returns. And so you really and she was a at the time newly married young woman. So the
Mhm.
consular officer may have looked at her and said, well, there's no way this person is really, rich, but she was. It's just that she fit the profile of somebody who maybe had weaker ties and did not explain the level of her financial stability and thus her ties, because if you have a lot in India,
Mhm.
that's not something you're going to abandon, and you also don't need to be misusing your visa in the United States if you're really well off, and you wouldn't risk misusing your visa in the United States if you had those types of assets. So that's a really long story, but yes, definitely present that whatever you have financially in the strongest way.
Okay. And but even why do they do this? I mean, if they're financially well off, so why do you think, they want to hide it? Because if they want to move to another country or travel to another country, so they should be showing their real finances, right? So why do
They
they do
don't
this?
hide it. They're Indians are so humble. They A lot of Indians are really humble or shy. And
Okay.
in the first scenario, I would say she was just a very timid person, and she just did not use her voice and actually talk about finances. Maybe she was nervous at the time, or maybe
Uh,
she did not want to be like, "Hey guys,
I
I'm
am a
really rich."
millionaire.
And I was like, "What?" So anyways, so that's a little bit of what happened. So it's not that it's that they don't know. It's that they might assume that the officer has more information than the officer has. So
Mhm.
particularly in India, there is more so than other countries I've noticed.
Mhm.
The applicants are just not putting it forward, or they're not thinking on those lines. A lot of
Right.
students do this. I'll be talking to a student, I'll be prepping them, and then, 15 minutes in the conversation, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, and my dad has like, 30 acres of land for me to build a factory." I'm like, can we have started with this information? Um, so I'm not sure why it takes so long for that to come forward. I think it is a little bit of humbleness to do with it.
Mm. Maybe, Indian parents, they also tell their kids to, to be grounded, not to brag so
Right,
much. So maybe that's
right.
the, yeah, that can
Yeah.
also be a reason. So now let's quickly move to our next question. Thank you so much, Prateek, for your question. And now Tanya has posted a question and she wants to know, can I apply for a green card permanent residency while on a B1, B2 visa?
Yeah, so you can do various things on B1, B2 visa. That's not my lane, in which I advise on what you can do when you're on the B1, B2 visa. But if you go to the USCIS website, you can see those options.
Mm, okay. All right. So let's quickly take our next question. Thank you so much, Tanya, for your question. And the next question that we have is from Tessa. And Tessa wants to know, if I hold a B1, B2 visa and have received the I-797 for my
Seven, yeah.
first H1B visa application, I'm presented with an interview waiver option for Dropbox or interview. What's the best choice?
Um, so you have a B1, B2 visa, but it's your first time for an H1B. So if you're presented with interview waiver, always go for the interview waiver option, because you cannot get refused. If that is an option presented to you, which it's an interesting option to be presented for somebody who's a first time H1B, but the US government is mainstreaming a lot of different things. If you have an option for interview waiver, always take the interview waiver. If the concert, it's there's only two things that can happen with interview waiver. One is your visa gets approved, or two, you get called in for an interview, generally immediately. You'll get a
Mhm,
slip and it'll say, please appear for an interview. That means
mhm,
that the consular officer has more questions.
mhm.
So definitely, if anybody is filling out the DS-160 and they get an interview waiver option, take it.
Okay, all right. But Yvette, I would like to know here, because there must be a lot of people who don't know the difference between interview waiver option for Dropbox or interview. So if you can please clarify the difference between these two, because people must be really confused.
Right.
These
So
two things.
interview waiver is you do not have to appear for an interview. So if it's for an H1B and it's for interview waiver, generally you fill out the DS-160, and the DS-160 application will tell you if you're eligible for an interview waiver Dropbox appointment, or
Mm-hmm,
you have to actually go in for a physical interview. And so when that option is given to you, generally only people that have held previous visas, and it used to be only if you've held that specific visa are you
mm-hmm,
eligible for interview waiver, but those rules are changing. You have to actually go through the application, because there's other things that can prevent you from doing an interview waiver if you've had any other security issues or clearances. So only going through and having the system tell you if you're eligible for interview waiver. But again, you must have held some type of visa in the past for you to even have interview waiver. So if you've never held any
mm,
type of visa, don't expect like interview waiver to be available to you. But all that means is you drop off your passport and any documents. In the case of an H1B, your petition is asked for. And so what happens with interview waiver is, in the afternoon, after I'm done with all my adjudications, I would get a stack of passports, and I would look at the passport, I would look at the supporting documentation, I would still look at the DS-160, but I would just approve that visa without ever having to interview the person.
mm-hmm,
However, if I'm looking at something and I'm like, there's something odd, like I've never heard of this company before. I have questions. So I'll be like, okay, Tessa, I hope this doesn't happen to you. I need to see Tessa. So I'll fill out a little piece of paper. She'll get her passport back with a piece of paper that says appear for interview. That's generally the process. It
mm-hmm.
varies a little bit across countries and such, but that's generally the flow. Or Tessa could be like, and I hope this happens to you. Visa's approved. I open my passport. Look, it's my B1, B2 visa. Look, it's my H1B, and you're good. And you never actually have to appear in front of a consular officer, which is always the best case scenario.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much for answering, for clearing what is the difference between both these things. Yvette, thank you so much for that. Now let's quickly take up Sanjay's question. Sanjay wants to know, ma'am, if I get my B1, B2 visa but not travel to the US as my DS-160 travel purposes, is that okay if travel to US next year, and will CBP questions me? Mhm.
CBP will always question you. If your purpose of travel changes, you may get more questioned by CBP. But if you're able to articulate why you're going to the US in a credible way, then it should be okay. If you're able to answer those questions, like, hey, I couldn't make it last year. I was supposed to take this trip, but my friend in the US had to work. I had to reschedule it, but we're doing this, then the officer won't think that that's a big deal if you're able to credibly explain it.
Okay. All right. So, Sanjay, thank you so much for posting your question. I hope you've got the answer. Now, let's quickly move to our next question. The next question that we have is from, I think, Sarah. And Sarah wants to know, what is the most funniest experience you had in the council?
I had a funny experience. I don't even know if I should share this. Okay. I, I feel like this might not necessarily be funny, but a lot of people who have had shoplifting for odd things, like, they'll be on an H1B, and these may not necessarily end up being ineligibilities. Like anything you do in the United States, like, can end up on your record. And so, especially if you are making a lot of money as an H1B, and I see that you have a misdemeanor, it might have been dismissed, and I asked them, like, what did you do? And they're like, I like stole a lipstick. I'm like, you make $200,000 a year. Why are you stealing a lipstick and getting caught? Like, so I see, and I think the funny experience about that is it was pretty common. Like, so
People
I
stealing
mean,
lipsticks or just,
just
stealing?
stealing very low
Okay.
value items from
Okay.
department stores was somehow a thing that became a little bit common, and it's clearly not because they needed the money. And
Right.
it's really sad that they end up getting caught. And when you're an H1B, DUIs, like minor stealing of things, like it anytime you get questioned or arrested, even if it's dismissed, even if it's not an ineligibility, it shows up as you're going for the next visa stamping or renewal. And so you'll have to talk about it again. And that's really embarrassing for people. And I guess not funny, but I don't know, a little silly, I guess, that I saw that
Yes,
a little bit with H1B.
even one of the attorneys we had, we have the session with, also mentioned the same thing, that people do shoplifting, and, it is not a good thing that you should be doing. But, it does it affect anything?
Not really. It doesn't really affect anything, but it pops up and I kind of have to ask about it, and it's very embarrassing for that person because I have to ask questions like, what did you steal? And they'll be like, a scarf or like something small. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of a bummer that, like, I have to see it, CBP has to see it, you have to get questioned about it all the time,
Yeah.
so
Okay, so quickly, one last question. I know you have to leave, Yvette. I'm really
yeah.
sorry, but
No,
just one
no, it's
last
fine.
question.
It's okay. Yeah, one
Yeah.
more question's good.
Okay. All right. So, Kamran has posted this on LinkedIn, and he wants to know, I'm working as an Oracle Senior Human Resource Application Analyst. I got a B1, B2 visa valid till 2028. I also visited last December 2023 to States for 15 days. Now I am in Qatar. While staying in Qatar, can we apply jobs in States? What do you have to say?
You can always apply for jobs in the United States. I mean, obviously, they would have to
Mhm.
be able to sponsor you once they hire you. So, I mean, the simple answer is you can apply for jobs now. In
Mhm.
order for you to be able to work in the United States, you can't not do that on a B1, B2. So,
Okay. So, well, Kamran, as Yvette said, you can apply, for the jobs from anywhere, be it Qatar or India, Pakistan, wherever. I mean,
yeah.
all right. But that's a wrap for today's session, folks. I'm really, really sorry that we have to end the session right now because unfortunately we are running short on time. But before we wrap up, we have a lot of questions pending, which I definitely would have loved to, ask from you, Yvette. But because I know you're busy and you also have to leave. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. I want to extend my huge thank you to you and for sharing your expertise with us. We will be, you'll be coming live with us next week. And would you like to take this session, AMA session again, or would you like to take, some other topic for the next week?
Yeah, I think we are planning on doing this a little bit earlier, a couple
Right.
hours earlier, like
Yes.
11 a.m. Central Time. And
Uh-huh.
we're going to do F1 visas, which, by the way, I have an F1 webinar. If you know any students that want to sign on to an F1 webinar, you can go on my YouTube channel. So it's student season. We'll go back to B visas because B visas, they're all year, they're always in season, but student season is now. So we'll do a nice F1 session next week, and hopefully we'll get some students on there.
Yes, we definitely, we would love to do a F1 session. And then after the student session season is over, then maybe we can again move on to, B1, B2, because we always get B1, B2 related questions from our audiences, right? So
Awesome. Yeah,
thank you
sounds
so
good.
much. Thank you so much, Yvette, once again for being a part of our show. And we'll see you next week. And thank you to our incredible audience for tuning in and being a part of this insightful discussion. Remember, if you have any further questions or need assistance with your visa journey, don't hesitate to reach out to Yvette Bansal. You can give her a call at +1 630 303 6165. You can email her at yb@udetivisa.com, and her website is udetivisa.com. You can also go check the website out. And if you're looking for a project placement and want to connect with me, then you can reach out to me on my number, which is +1 732 707 9151. My email is rajni@highrightypeople.com. You could visit our website, which is highrightypeople.com. Always remember, we sponsor H1B visas and we also sponsor other work visas based on job availability and regulations. Well, that's a wrap for today's episode. Join us next time for more enlightening conversations about visas and immigration. Until next time, keep subscribing, keep following, stay curious, and stay safe. Bye for now.
You an IT consultant seeking a new opportunity? We offer job placement services for US citizens, green cards, EADs, and visa holders. We also sponsor various work visas like H1B, E3, TN, and green cards. 20 plus years of experience in the industry. Exceptional employee benefits. Highly rated by our employees. Global presence with 200 plus recruiters and direct clients. Connect with us. Call us on the number 732-707-9151 or mail us at rajni@highrightypeople.com or visit our website www.highrightypeople.com.